I know you just sat down, but bear with me here. Okay. Right now, you all represent possible American voters between the ages of 18 to 24. That's around 30.5 million people. The oldest tracked age bracket in the United States of eligible voters is 75 and up, which is roughly 21.9 million. So this younger age bracket is larger by about 10 million, but they're still having less of an impact. So I want to talk about why. Can I get everyone from this side of me to sit down? This is why. For voters aged 18 to 21, the average number of people registered to vote is 49.1%. Think of how many were standing before, and look at how many are standing now. This is well below the average number of registered voters, which is around 66.9% in the general United States. But it gets worse. Can I have everyone except for those standing on this side of the theater sit down? I know I'm making you stand, but bear with me. Of that already small percentage of voters, only around 32.4% of registered voters between the ages of 18 to 24 actually voted in the last general election. Compare that to the 63.2% of voters over the age of 75 that voted in the last election. Okay, you can all sit down now, but isn't that kind of crazy to think about? According to 528 estimates, if younger generations were voting at the same rate as older generations, we would be swinging election turnouts left and right. They didn't quite say it like that, but that was the gist. And what this ends up meaning is if you wholeheartedly agree with your grandparents and everything they believe in, sorry, Grandma, I know you're in the front row, great, stop voting. Because they're the ones determining your future, and they're the ones determining what's going to happen. There's this huge belief in the United States, and specifically in California, that your vote doesn't matter, which leads to the belief that it's even possible to go through your life without having any impact on the political voting system. Here's a hint, you really, really can't. No matter what you do and what you try to do, it's impossible to go through your life without having any impact on the democratic system. Because if you're not directly voting with a ballot, you're instead voting with your money. I'll start with an example that may be more familiar to you. The popular fast food company, Chick-fil-A, has received backlash for many years over it being anti-LGBTQ. It is estimated that in 2010, the Cathy family, the owners of Chick-fil-A, donated more than $1.9 million to anti-gay groups, and this trend has been reoccurring throughout the years. Now, the Cathy family has made their money off the fast food industry, off of you. In this case, by going to Chick-fil-A, you are then supporting these groups and these corporations and these nonprofits. In 2011, Subway instead donated to organizations like Make-A-Wish and the American Red Cross and other organizations that specialize in helping those in need. Another example and a different type of fundraising from corporations is a place like Chipotle that helped raise around $20 million in fundraising in 2017. Now, this is a more direct donation. We've done a lot of them through the school. You go in with the intent to order and support this foundation. But still, $20 million is nothing to scoff at. Corporations are constantly donating to different causes, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's generally pretty great for everyone involved. Taco Bell has its own scholarship fund. McDonald's has its own charity. People benefit, and the corporations get a tax break. It's a win-win. But charities aren't the only place where corporations are donating. In the 2014 general elections, Chick-fil-A donated a little over $12,000 to the Republican Party and associated campaigns and elections, and around $4,000 to the Democratic Party. In comparison, Chipotle gave over $31,000 to the Democratic Party, and nothing to the Republican Party in that same election cycle. This money, your money, doesn't stay in charities, it doesn't stay in people's pockets. It circulates in our political system without your voice behind it, whether you want it to or not. And that will always be true. But the issue arises when that money begins to speak louder than your voice and louder than your vote. And for a lot of people between the ages of 18 to 24, if you remember how empty those people, how few people were standing before, that's the only impact that they're having. This election year is also really important because 2014 wasn't a big election year. It wasn't a presidential election. But these corporations still had a stake in the outcomes. When it comes to places like California, there's often a huge apathy towards voting. you're currently letting someone else determine your future. When it comes to elections, I'm not just talking about president. I'm talking about all elections. Last year, in our school board district, 200 votes determined who served on our board. 200, that's not a lot. It's probably less than how many people are sitting in this room. Especially in a state as large as California, elections for things like state representatives can and do have a huge impact. And many elections can be settled by smaller margins than people even think is possible. The makeup of a Senate can and does have more of an effect than, say, even the president at times, and on what laws are actually implemented and effective. Your state representatives can implement things like, say, healthcare, or affect what we heard about earlier, which is college tuition, on statewide levels. Not everything is national. Frequently, candidates are campaigning to older generations. They're not addressing the issues that are near and dear to my heart and near and dear to your heart, because our generation isn't voting. Now, I know a lot of us can't vote yet, given the fact that we're still in high school, but there's still things that you can do. Get involved with things you care about. Encourage your older friends who have graduated, and encourage your family members to go out and vote, to register to vote, to at least have an opinion. And now, can I get everyone to stand up one last time? This is how many of you I want to see walking out of a voting booth at the next possible opportunity. So I hope you'll join me in taking a stand and voting. It's the biggest protest you can do. Thank you.